Hi, this is Jason from eRacing Academy, and today I'm going to be comparing China's two leading sim racing equipment manufacturers' flagship pedals. On my right, I have Simagic's P1000, and on my left, I have Moza's CRP. We're going to be comparing them in a way so you have no question marks in your head, and these subjects would be build quality, size, design, ergonomics, modularity, add-ons, price, and then finally, my conclusions. In terms of size, they pretty much have a very similar envelope, but just to clarify, the P1000 does look a little bit higher because the pedal faces are at the highest possible setting due to my big feet. And in terms of weight, they do weigh very similarly in the 7.5 kilo bound. In terms of materials used, the P1000 mainly and mostly uses aluminium. Just to give you a little check, I have a little magnet here, nothing's pretty much sticking. The odd shaft and probably the springs are the only things that are pretty much steel on this, and the rest is all aluminium. We have an aluminium plate here bent, and the rest of it is actually all CNC aluminium. The CRP, the base plate is metal. As you can see, my magnet doesn't want to come off, but the rest of it, like the P1000, is also mainly CNC aluminium, and again, probably some of these shafts and springs are steel only. In terms of coloring and finishing, they both obviously have black coated finishes. We have a few reds on the Simagic, we have a few golden yellow anodized stuff on the CRP, but all in all, both finishing are actually pretty good and they look high quality. So in terms of design, I think it's fair to say that the P1000 out of the box has more of a single-seater design, and the CRP has more of a GT road car design, specifically when you actually look at the long face throttle pedal. Continuing with the design, both pedal sets have Hall effect sensors and all their three pedals, and in addition to that, both pedal sets, brake pedals, have 100 kilo load cell sensors. But just to clarify, only on the Simagic can you actually separate the Hall effect sensor and the load cell sensor on the brake pedal, which can be done on the SimPro software. Basically, this allows you to kind of separate whichever sensor you want to use depending on your braking style or the kind of sensitivity you're actually looking for. So in terms of mounting, both of these pedal sets actually use the Fanatec mounting template, which is actually quite convenient because it makes both of them pretty universal. But there's actually a catch to how to mount these pedal sets. So with the Simagic, you have to drop the bolt through the larger hole, and then you have to basically tighten the nut from underneath. And for the CRP, it gets a little more trickier, unfortunately. So as you can see, we have quite a few holes. These are the Fanatec mounting templates. So what you can do is you actually put through the nut here and tighten it from underneath, or you can get an M6 and actually tighten it from underneath from these threaded holes. But as you can see, in terms of height or in terms of one dimension, they're on the same plane. So if you have a pedal set or a pedal plate, that actually has slotted holes, then you'll be able to use the Fanatec template. So now I want to talk about the ergonomics and the adjustability in the design subject. So let's start with the P1000. The P1000's ergonomic is actually pretty good. As you can see, we have a wide enough, or I'd say a long enough plate here, or a space to put your foot. We have a nice adjustable heel stop, so the height is pretty good. It can go further or back depending on how you want to position it. And when it comes to the pedals, the pedal faces don't actually move laterally, but they move in terms of their height. So we have a good few positions we can adjust them to. And in terms of actually the pedal faces angle, you can basically adjust them from here, so it would actually tilt forward or backward from this position. And when it comes to the lateral position of the pedals themselves, you can actually adjust them a little bit on the different holes they have on this pedal plate. And in terms of the adjustability of the pedals, like the stiffness for themselves, so the throttle has two settings. So you have this lower position and the upper position. So if you want to go beyond basically changing the stiffness of the throttle itself, then you can pretty much use one of the springs, actually, or the spare springs that come for the clutch. So this is the standard spring that comes in the box for the let's say the throttle itself. But what we've done is, because I've been complaining it's a little soft, I actually mounted the softest clutch spring to make it stiffer for my likes. And in terms of brakes, the brakes are a different story. The brakes, we have rubber and polyurethane pads, and we have a bunch of spares that come out of the box as well. So you can actually change the stiffness by changing the pad combination to your liking. And in terms of the clutch adjustability, we don't have any height adjustment here to make it slightly stiffer or softer, but we have, as I said, different springs, stiffer or softer springs that come in the box. And in addition to that, you can actually adjust a little bit of preload as well for your liking. So looking at the CRP's ergonomics and adjustability, like the Simagic, even bigger, we have a nice area here to put our foot, and we have a nice heel rest. It's actually bent metal, something we're more used to seeing in single seaters. Not as fancy as a Simagic, but still very useful. In terms of adjustability, we have 3 separate holes here, so you can bring it forward or put it further as you like. And so talking about the pedal faces, you can adjust them laterally. So you can see we got 3 separate holes here, whole sets, let's say, so you can adjust them laterally in 3 settings, 3 different settings. You can adjust them, the angle of it from here, so you can screw it, unscrew or screw it basically, and you can adjust the angle of the face, but you can't really adjust the height of it. And I've looked in many different ways, and I can't still understand how you can adjust the height of the pedal faces. Anyhow, doesn't have to be. Basically, what Moza has done here is allowed you to actually move the pedal faces laterally with a fixed pedal position, let's say. That means the pedal position cannot change on the plate itself, but can actually change through the face. In terms of the CRP's adjustability, the throttle pedal itself has 3 adjustments, as you can see, 3 separate holes. You can adjust the stiffness a little bit with preload as well. That's something good as too. Pedal stiffness, you have spare springs and rubber pads basically. As you can see, we have medium, soft, because I got the stiff one in the pedal set itself, and we got 2 separate springs, so you can do maybe about 6 or 7 different configurations, as you wish. But again, the adjustability is done both with the rubber and the spring. And then when it comes to the clutch, it's pretty simple. Like the throttle, we have 3 separate adjustments here. So we have 3 holes to adjust a bit of stiffness. And in terms of spring, I think it's a standard spring. I can't remember having any other springs coming out of the box, but you can adjust a little bit of preload from this Allen adjustment here. The last part I want to talk about from a design perspective is actually the modularity. See, the P1000 pretty much comes like this out of the box. The only thing you have to do is pretty much connect this part of the pedal set and the heel rest, and it's pretty much ready to go. Whereas on the CRP, things are a little different. Every pedal is actually individually packaged in these nice, bags in the box, and then you have to mount them onto the pedal plate itself, which means you can actually mount these pedals separately, individually, to any plate which actually has or allows it to be mounted with the correct holes, which is actually very useful, because if you have a pedal plate with similar mounting holes or actually aluminium extrusions, you can mount these pedals separately. Whereas on the P1000, you can actually mount them on a aluminium extrusion with these L brackets that actually come out from the box, but again, they're all in one piece. So with respect to modularity, the P1000 actually has something special to offer to us. Either you can get an inversion kit after you've bought a non-inverted one, or you can actually buy a an inverted pedal set, you know, out of the box. So if you like your pedal sets to be inverted like a road car, the P1000 can offer that. Whereas a CRP, no, doesn't come inverted or has no inversion kit. So before I do a deep dive into the add-ons, I actually want to talk about their prices. So as you can see them out of the box, the Simagic P1000 is 529 USD from their official store. And the Moza CRP, as you can see out of the box, is 499 USD from the official store. Now it's time to talk about the add-ons. Honestly, I think I'm going to start off firstly with the Moza CRP because it has no available add-ons you can purchase or mount afterwards. Whereas the Simagic P1000 has a lot of add-ons you can purchase after you've bought this. So to start off with, we have the SimRay product. So we have the SimRay heel stop, which you replace with this. Then you have the SimRay bar, a nice lighting bar, which you actually mount right here very easily. Continuing, we have the haptics, which you actually mount on the pedals themselves in terms of getting a little more feedback with vibrations. Then obviously if you want to use these products, so the SimRay products and the haptics, you actually need this power supply too. Just a quick note, the haptics are actually sold individually, so you buy one. If you want to have more than one, you have to buy more than one, and you could actually use them for all three pedals, but I would actually advise only the throttle and brake. Continuing with the add-ons, obviously we have polyurethane and rubber pads for the brake system, and if you want to actually change your brake system to a hydraulic system, you can do that as well. So we have a hydraulic add-on as well. And if you feel a bit jealous from the CRP because it actually has a long throttle pedal face, you can actually buy a long throttle pedal face for the Simagic P1000 too. So the abundance of add-ons is all great, but they obviously come at a price. And you know, considering its basic price and considering all the extra add-ons, if you want to have the full Monty, it can cost you up to 1,200 USD. My advice would definitely to be investing in these haptics, definitely for the brake and the throttle. And if you want to improve maybe the feeling of the brake pedal as well, you can invest in the hydraulic system. Add a bit of color and fun to your pedal set. I could also recommend the SimRay heel stop. Now let's talk about the pros and cons of both these pedal sets. Honestly, the most con of the P1000 compared to the CRP would probably be the fact that the P1000's pedals are not individuals. They can't be separated from the base. This comes as a whole unit, whereas a CRP, you can separate them, you can take away them, you can mount them onto anything you want. Also, you could argue maybe the limited lateral movement of the pedal itself could also be a con for some, but at the end of the day, you know, the main difference between the structure, the general design between these two pedal sets is probably actually the fact that you can fully separate this individually, mount it anywhere else, and this is a unit as it is. However, I think the P1000 has a lot of pros compared to the CRP, and honestly, you know, I could easily say probably the build quality is better. There's a lot more CNC aluminium parts on this compared to the CRP. The fact that the adjustability of the pedal faces height-wise, I think is very important for me because I've got big feet. It doesn't have to be for you. And also the additional add-ons you can put on these is a huge pro, obviously, because there are a lot of them, and these actually additions add a bit of more force feedback. It kind of adds more immersiveness to actually your driving, which is obviously something you would like to have. But I could also say that all these add-ons could be a con as well, because as nice as they sound, it also kind of complicates things a little bit more, because, you know, they are nice, but they do come at a price. And then you pretty much start thinking, which ones should I buy, which ones should I not? Because earlier, as I said, if you wanted the full Monty, it can cost you anything up to 1,200 USD. So I could say again that for me, two haptics, maybe the SimRay heel stop, and also the hydraulic add-on would probably be my favorites. And you're probably wondering, Jason, you've never mentioned anything about the feeling of these pedals and how's your experience with them whilst driving. I spent a lot of time with the P1000, and before we actually filmed this video, I spent a bit of time with the CRP as well. And I can very easily say that, very comfortably say that they're very good, both of them are very good actually, pedal sets. But, if we eliminate, or like actually not talking about the throttle pedal and the clutch pedal and focus on the brake pedals, the P1000 has the upper hand. And I could easily say this because the rubber pads inside of them, the rubber and the polyurethane pads inside them, actually give you a more homogeneous feel. You can feel the progressiveness in the pedal as you're exerting force on it. Whereas with the CRP, the spring and rubber combination, I feel like I'm actually pressing more down to the spring. Even though I've got the hard rubber on this, unless I put a lot of effort, if I exert a lot of force on the pedal, I can't really feel the rubber squeezing. And the fact that I can only feel the spring, resisting my foot whilst I'm lifting the pedal is also something not ideal for me. Whereas with the P1000, the fact that you can actually, have a lot of configurations, thousands of different configurations, depending on which pad or which rubber or polyurethane pad you put in, then you can pretty much find a good, feeling for yourself. The reason I'm saying this is because ideally when you're, pressing the brake pedal a little bit, you want a certain travel. And when you're pressing it very hard, let's say you're pretty much trying to stop the car as much as or as fast as possible, you exert a lot and you have to have a certain pedal travel. So the ideal thing to do is when you're actually pressing a little bit, you want enough travel to have a good feeling, so you're actually sensing there's a travel. And when you're pressing very hard, you have enough travel to basically understand how much you've pressed completely, which basically allows you to maybe have soft pads, medium stiffness and very stiff pads combined together to actually get this very, very, let's say, wanted, wished, desired progressive feeling. Another thing that I actually didn't like with the CRP is that this only has a pedal stop on the clutch pedal, whereas this has adjustable pedal stops for all pedals, which actually can be very useful whilst driving. To add another probably pro for the P1000 would be the ease of adjustability of the stiffnesses of all the pedals themselves. So if you wanted to adjust the stiffness of the brake pedal with respect to changing the position of these holes, all you have to do is just pull this pin, take the shaft out, locate it in the different hole, put the pin in, and basically you're done. Whereas on the CRP, you need Allen keys, you need 2 Allen keys. You have to basically be very careful whilst taking out the bolt, because there's a spacer. If you drop the spacer, it's a nightmare. It's much easier with the P1000, I'm not gonna lie. And also with the CRP, to change the rubber pad on the brake pedal is a little difficult. It can get a bit tedious also, but with the P1000, if you just release a bit of preload, all you have to do is just lift the cylinder tube, unscrew it and change the pads and just put it back on again. Another thing I have to say about the CRP with respect to a con is the tolerances in these pedals. So you can see there's some movement here, there's movement here, there's movement here, whereas with the P1000 it is better in terms of the tolerances they've allowed in this design. So to conclude, I think it's fair to say that the winner here is the Simagic P1000 because the build quality is better, the adjustability is easier, and the amount of add-ons you can purchase later is a lot, and it's actually useful for your driving. And as it is, these two configurations, there's only $30 difference between them. So the Simagic P1000 is $30 more expensive, but you get a lot more for that price. You get a better design, you get better adjustability, you get a better driving feel, which I think is the most important. Of course, the CRP is a very good pedal set, and if you've got a Moza ecosystem, you can stick to it for sure. You can purchase it, and it has a couple of pros compared to the P1000, but my choice would be the Simagic P1000. Also, another thing I have to mention is these both pedal sets do run with a particular software. So we have SimPro for Simagic, we have Pithouse for Moza, and honestly, both softwares do what they're supposed to do. You can calibrate them, you can adjust dead zones for each pedal set, you can do min, max values, you can create different profiles, different graphs according to your liking. So at the end of the day, both softwares pretty much satisfy your needs. Well, that's it for today. Hope you liked the video. If you have, please press that like button. If you haven't subscribed to the eRacing Academy YouTube channel, please do subscribe. And if you've got anything to ask us, tell us, please do drop a comment. Well, again, hope to see you in the next video. Until then, take care. Bye-bye.